Dr. Raymont to give us our message for today. And what a joy it is to be able to have him here with us. And knowing that he is our mercy and minister. So I'd like to welcome him.
Singing or something, I don't say something, and then the claps come. So,
just try to do yourself, right?
Always. I don't need this thing, right? So I have a question. This comes from my background as a public school teacher and a college professor, so bear with me. This is your moment of being in class. I have a question, and I actually expect an answer. Raise your hand if you've ever heard the phrase that we are creatures of habit. Okay. Think to yourself, do you believe it? Don't raise your hand. Don't look at your neighbor. Think to yourself, do you believe it? Do you believe that you are a creature of habit? And if so, what does that mean? Because every time someone says it and we agree, however we are agreeing, whatever that means that we are agreeing, then we are putting ourselves into some kind of limited box paradigm consciousness that says, I must be what my habits are. And this is the entire reason why we don't like change. This is the whole reason why we fight against transformation. Because we don't want that which is different, other than what we've grown accustomed to. But what if, instead of being creatures of habit, we were creators of habit? Or let's even change that. Instead of being creators of habit, let's be creators of habitat. Meaning we get to create that in which we live. The entire environment, our habitat, not just our habitat of space, but our habitat of mind and heart. We get to create the house in which we live, in which we dwell, in which we will move and live and have our beingness. What if that's what being a creature of habit is really supposed to mean? Just think about that for a second. Because going back and thinking, if I am bound by my habits, to a certain degree that's saying I am bound by my history. I am bound by that which was. And we know that principle is not bound by precedent. Principle changes. Changes us. Everything about us. The moment we step into that thing called life, abundance, joy, love, we're transformed. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Doesn't say, be ye transformed by a mind that is renewed. Be ye transformed by the renewing. Ministers have to renew their license. Practitioners have to renew. It's an ongoing process. And as this process is ongoing, so too is the renewal of our minds. So too is the transformation that we live and breathe every day. We're not the same people we were when we were in high school. Some of us look in the mirror and we wish we had that high school body, or that high school hair, that high school something. It may not even be that, because some of us may still be in high school, maybe. So there's something, though, that we want to hold on to, because we are creatures of habit in some paradigm in our mind, because that's what we're conditioned to believe. We watch the news from this state of being. Which is why another phrase comes to mind, misery loves company. And so we watch the news and we hear about whatever horrendous thing is happening, and we, rather than point the finger, because we point the finger at, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault that we are so miserable and in the condition that we are in. It was easy for me to grow up and blame whoever in my family for abusing me, for me becoming someone who had suicidal ideations, for me turning into someone who ate so much that I became 305 pounds, for me to turn into someone who was reckless and careless, etc. It's easy for me to blame anybody in my family for any of those things. So easy. And for years I did. Because it was easy. The more challenging and difficult thing is that we know based on this philosophy is we, as individuals, get to choose and get to change. We get to be the ones who are the way showers. We don't have to rely on others to be the way showers. Because in truth, there is no center. There is no minister. There is no practitioner who truly changes you. We put forth the consciousness. You know, I'm sure you've heard the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but the minister, the center, the whomever could be the most amazing farmer, planting seeds, sowing seeds of health and well-being and prosperity and abundance and love and joy and all of that stuff. And you look at their garden and you see opulence. You see tomatoes that are, and you see all, it just looks delicious. But if you never bring your plate and your utensils and put it on the plate and then put it inside of you, you never get the nutrients of it. And if you never get the nutrients of it, you cannot blame that person, that practitioner, that whomever, for saying, well, you didn't feed me. But you had the opportunity. So then we have to ask, why am I not eating then? What is it? If it's laying before me, in order to be healthy, I have to let go of the ill me. And if I have grown accustomed to being ill, being well, that's a new neighborhood. You know, I've heard how those people in that neighborhood are. And I don't know if I really like them or not. So I don't know if I want to go to that neighborhood. I don't know if I want to move into that neighborhood. Because to leave this neighborhood of illness, to go to this neighborhood of wellness, I have to also leave my friends of illness, dis-ease, disharmony, discord. I don't socialize with them in the same way that I do from here. The caterpillar that turns into a butterfly can still see the caterpillars and can wave, but it has other trees to venture to that the caterpillars may never see. We don't want, oftentimes, to do that, so we hold on. We white-knuckle it, and we grip in. We curl toes into the concrete, and we refuse to let go. Carl Jung says, the meaning of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. You are one personality, that whoever you were before you came to this philosophy. And this philosophy, which I will say, based upon the personality of Holmes. And you and Holmes came together. You and Signs of Mind came together. And a chemical reaction of consciousness, both are transformed. Now, we may want to say, well, how am I changing Signs of Mind? You're not necessarily changing Signs of Mind. You see, let's go back. God doesn't change. But God, as an incarnate, individualized expression as you, does change. Now, a lot of us don't like to hear that part about, I'm divine. Yes. You are divine, you are sacred, and you are holy exactly where you are. Now, let's play with this for a second. And it's going to be challenging because there's some over there on the table, and I love cake. So, cake. I don't know if I was supposed to admit that on day one, but cake. So, cake. Do we all in this room know what cake is? Now, when I say the word cake, can you eat that? No, not the word. now, because when I say it and I ask you, do you know what it means, an idea of what cake is comes to your mind. But even the idea of cake that comes to your mind, is it all cake? No. God is cake. The entirety of God we can't fathom the entirety of. Because if we can't bring to mind the entirety of all cake, even though I love cake, and I can't bring to my mind the entirety of all cake, how can I bring to my mind the entirety of all God? However, I can put before me an experience of cake that I can personalize and bring into myself. So you are a cake. You are an individualized expression of this concept. You are delicious. You are magnificent, and you are beautiful. Because you come from, made of, in the image and likeness of, the very thing that is love. Now, here we go. Let's talk about this transformation thing a little bit more. So, I talk to a lot of folks every now and then, and people want to wrestle with me. I'm not sure why. People want to wrestle with me about this whole concept-y stuff about change your mind, me. And I usually get it from like certain relatives or certain friends from my former life. I'm not even going to talk as a Baptist. From my former life, who talk about this is, it's a cult and it's this and that. And so as we are wrestling, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm standing on truth, so they can wrestle all they want. It's sort of like, never mind. I'm still thinking cake. So we get into this discussion about what this philosophy means. And it comes down to the idea that we get to change who and what we are, right? Like we get to become more and more of, more and more love, more and more joy, more and more magnificence each day. We get to be more and more of that. Because for as long as we are in these finite expressions of the divine, we are not going to be all of it. We can't. The fact that we wake up in the morning and we brush our teeth brush our teeth. I'm telling you, it's that cake. We brush our teeth every morning. We bathe every morning. We eat every day. There are certain things we do every day. Because that's the process of being human. Repetition. Over and over again. Right? However, we don't apply that same kind of philosophy to what we are doing in changing our lives. We expect, I'm going to get a treatment, I'm going to get this, and I'm good to go forever. Rather than acknowledging that on a scale of 1 to 10, I feel like 9 with where I am with love today. The next day, it's a 10. The next day, it's a 10, but why couldn't it be a 12? I'm going to experiment and see. I'm at a 15. I didn't even know 15 was possible. We can grow and evolve. We should be growing and evolving. Why does it say, let's go back to those principles. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible. We got this part, right? It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. The infinite self-knowingness of God. When could you get to the end of, I've done that which was the infinite. I've made it. I'm at the end of eternity. Get my gold medal. Yay. It doesn't happen. Because it's the infinite. And then we believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever. He didn't just put forever expanding. He put forever and ever expanding. play so small then? Why do we allow our culture, our history, our heritage, our labels to be the thing that make us play small? Until we truly grasp what this stuff means, we're going to have some element of suffering. And we don't have to suffer. Suffering is a completely different thing from feeling pain. We are going to feel pain. A friend betrays us. Someone abuses us. A memory of a past event that it hasn't completely been dealt with. The shadow side that we want to ignore, but we're wrestling with it, and it hurts. Yes. But we don't have to suffer. Especially when we take into account, I want to talk about this shadowy thing for a second. A lot of us don't like the shadow. I'm not talking about the people in this room, because you're the enlightened ones, so I know. But people you know. And we don't like the shadow thing. We run from it, we hide from it. But do we understand that in order for there to be a shadow, there has to be light? Because you want to get rid of the shadow, go into a dark room. And sit in the dark room. But if you want light, and truly want light, then you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary to transform oneself. To go to that place in mind. Now this is when practitioners and ministers and mentors and all this other stuff can come into play. Because now you have someone who, to a certain degree, has charted this course before. I've been down that river before. Be careful of the crocodiles about 3 miles down. That's the purpose that they serve. But you have to get in the boat. You have to paddle. Take photos of the crocodiles as you pass them by. You have to do that as an individual. Because the body, it's easy for us to look at a person and we see someone. Right? Because that's what we do. We identify. You even have labels on yourself. We have labels. And so when we see someone, we see them as the entirety of. How often do we do one of these? No, leave it there. Hey, Doug, how are you? We don't do that. We don't shake his foot. Because we don't identify that as, but it is a part of him. There is an entire thing called you. But see, we don't even focus enough on the physical self. Because if I asked you right now, bring your attention to your right foot, the inside ankle of your right foot. Something different happens. And now you can feel, I can feel my shoe touching my ankle. I can feel the temperature as it touches. I feel my skirt or my dress or my pant leg brushing against my ankle. But a second ago, you weren't aware of it. And this is just your physical body, which has a limit. What happens when we expand into that part of us that has no limits? That is beyond the names and the labels. That is the infinite I am. What happens then? You know, I was sharing a story the other day with the mysticism class that I'm teaching, and I couldn't remember where I had heard the story before, so I went home and did what the nerd does. That's where I got it. So Ram Dass tells this story about Hanuman, the monkey deity, right? And Hanuman is having a conversation with Ram, and Ram is like, "Monkey, what are you?" And Hanuman says, "When I don't know who I am your servant. When I know who I am you." When we don't know who and what we are, we think all we are here to do is to be servants. To simply go about, I'm a mom, I'm a dad, I'm an employer, I'm a grandfather, I'm an uncle, I'm a this, I'm a that, and we go about to serve. We serve the world. But the more we get to know who and what we are, we realize, I am that. I am the divine. I am no different than Yeshua, who said, when you have seen me, you have seen that from which I come. I and the Father, his language, I and the Father are one. We're absolutely no different. But we have to be willing to transform, to shift, to mold through. Holmes says, put them on this now. Prepare yourself to receive the best life has to offer. Words that heal today. The living Spirit incarnated in every man's soul, every man and woman's soul. The entire nature of the divine being is bequeathed to us. There is a law of spiritual authority which is our command. Spiritual authority, you have it, whether you feel it or not. The best life has to offer is yours, whether you feel like you deserve it or not. In my Father's kingdom, there are many mansions. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be. All of that stuff from every world religion, every spiritual philosophy. The truth of your being is you are whole, perfect, and complete right now. I don't care what your past did or didn't do, said or didn't say, because that's technically gone. The only place that exists is in our minds. When we bring that to mind, we breathe life back into it. It doesn't exist right now. Every time my mother hit me, knocked me down, drew blood, or whatever, it doesn't exist right now. You don't see it happening right now. But if I start to feel pain about it or anger about it, why is that so? Because I'm breathing life. I need you to come back to life and slap me a little bit more. Come on, memory, wait. Clear! There you go. Then the memory is back alive. Then the memory is torturing me again. And then I go to the minister or the practitioner because I need you to help me kill it again. I need a stake and a hammer and a crucifix and some holy water and kill the memory again until I need it again sometime later. That's what we do. We make it come back, then we put it away, and make it come back and put it away. Rather than, why did, there's a story from Easter. Any former Christians or anything in here? Just so I know I'm not like. So you might be familiar with this. So Jesus has been crucified, died, and buried, and the ladies go to the tomb, and inside, depending on which gospel, there's an angel. There's and it says, "Why do you seek the living amongst the dead?" Why are you seeking the living amongst the dead? Every time we go back to this and breathe life into it, I'm seeking the living in my past, not in the now. There's a story, and I'm going to change it for the sake of the company that we are in right now. This guy goes to Starbucks, and he walks in, and he sees over the counter a sign that says, "All coffee tomorrow is free." You mean I can get my half soy latte, half soy, half maca, half hot, for free? I'm not getting anything today. I'll be back tomorrow. So he goes away and comes back tomorrow, and he walks in, he's like, "I need," and he gives the order. And the barista smiles and points at the sign. "All coffee tomorrow." But today's today. But I came in yesterday and the sign said, "Today is today. Tomorrow is never here." And we try living in the past, and we worry about living in the future. Well, but what? Tomorrow, what if? What if? Clear? All of those what ifs, that's not life affirming. Because how often do we, so I'm going into the doctor and I have an exam that I have to get. What if the doctor tells me everything is perfect? Everything is fine. How often do we do that? We may do it once in a while, but why do we not do it more often? What if I go to this first job interview and get the job right off the, what if that? Not, well, what if I go in and what if they don't like me? What if I go in and what if they think I'm too dark? Or what if they go in and they don't like my suit? Or what if I go in and I get the job and I can't do the job? What if, Clear. this. We experience this. I know what heartbreak feels like. I've had it. I've experienced it. I know what betrayal feels like. Had it. Experienced it. Been there. Done that. Disney. The Disney of heartbreak. I've had my ups and downs on Magic Mountain. I know that ride very well. But that thing, I've never been on that before. But it's fun. Yeah, but. Get on and see. No, I'm going to get back on this thing that I'm used to. Where I know every curve. I know exactly how long it takes to climb. I know exactly how long it takes to descend. I know exactly how long I'll be upside down. I know that. That's not transformation. Transformation says, simply stand in this moment and breathe. Let me share one last thing. Tracy's putting up my time. Because that's Tracy's job. So, I told you my background is Baptist, so people who are in my Wednesday night class know, Ray can talk, can't he? So, Joel Goldsmith says in Practical Mysticism, as you leave your home, you carry God's grace everywhere you go. Everywhere you walk, run, or ride. All who enter your consciousness during the day, whether they be storekeepers or customers, clients or patients, students or friends, and sometimes enemies, must feel the power of God, which is stored up through your years of opening yourself to the Word of God, the truth of God, which now constitutes your very truth. Every bit of you is filled with God, for even your body is the temple of God. Your body is the storehouse of God's power and God's grace. All of you is sacred. Not just your soul, not just your spirit, not just your mind, not just your consciousness. Even this is holy and sacred. What would happen if we gave ourselves permission for 1 minute, first thing in the morning every day, to simply stand and be willing to be God? Be willing to be the I am, simply breathing in. Not just I'm good enough, I'm good. Not simply that I'm beautiful, but I am the ultimate of what beauty is, individualized as me. In the same way I talk about cake. Cake, right here. Whatever flavor, however it's iced. But cake as a concept, God it's all that you are. So for 1 minute, let it wash over you. Acknowledging there is nothing wrong with me. Not my height, not my weight, not my skin color, not my sexual orientation, not anything that anyone has ever told me. No sin, no sickness, no death. No. Right here, right now, in this moment, none of that. None of it for 1 minute. It's not a lot to ask. And then when you got that minute, it's like, I can do this for a minute. Joel Goldsmith also says somewhere else, because a lot of us, we talk about meditation being difficult, and he says that if you, first thing in the morning, you immerse yourself in the consciousness that you are the divine, and then go about your day, then you have meditated more than, because what you did was you connected to the one. And if you can do that in a minute, or if it takes 5 minutes, that is far better than meditating for 4 hours. 4 hours and 72 seconds and what? That doesn't matter. Because people do this, and they don't connect. So it is better that you connect in however. There's only one power and one presence. And if that is true, then it has to be right here. It has to be right here. For 1 minute. Let's pray. Grounding ourselves in this truth. Letting ourselves be breathed. We understand, we acknowledge, we express from our heart this willingness to be transformed. to grow into, evolve into all that God as us is growing and evolving and shifting into. And so we breathe. And so from this place of breath, I speak this word knowing that that which is the infinite, the eternal, the thing itself, the one mind, is all there is. And it being all there is, it must be right here, not simply speaking through me, not simply being with me, but it is showing up in, through, and as me. So these words are not the words of Raymont. These must be the words of the I am, speaking through itself, about itself. For God is all there is. So as I speak this, I also know that the willingness to shift and grow and transform is the nature of the universe, the nature of this one mind. To ever and ever evolve, to ever and ever grow into more and more magnificence. And that is the truth of what I am, the truth of who I am. And if it is true for me, it is true for each and every person in this room, each and every person on this property, each and every person in this city, this state, this country, and this planet and beyond. Love, joy, beauty, magnificence, infinite potentiality and possibility is all that God is expressing right here, right now, in, through, and as. And so with gratitude, I speak this. In gratitude, I declare it. In gratitude, I place it back into the rich soil from which it came, knowing that this seed in this soil must produce a rich and bountiful harvest. And that is what it is doing right here, right now, in this center, in these people,